Sometimes in any human organization, there are those that are not so laudable. This is a t-shirt I found on the internet. I'm an emergency room nurse. I'm here to save your butt, not kiss it. I don't like that. I don't like that. I think it speaks of an attitude that is not human connected. I'll be here, I'll do my job, don't bother me. So I have 3 stories, and I will probably just tell you one of them because I do want to move along within the time. Read my essay, you can read all 3 stories, but one in particular involves yet another urinary catheter. Now, I don't know about you fellas in the room, but I'm not crazy about that, okay? It's no fun. But when I had the cardiac catheterization, I'm in the table and a male aide came over and he said, well, we have to do this. They hadn't mentioned that before, but here I am on the table, ready to do it. Oh, okay, go ahead. And when I woke up from the conscious anesthesia, which I was unconscious for, I wasn't even aware of it. I didn't even know it was there. And they brought me back to my room after it was over, and they said, now you can't move for 6 hours. Well, half an hour into that, I felt a familiar urge, one that we all know well. For that matter, some of you with your legs crossed may be feeling it right now, and that is the urge to pee, okay? That's the technical term, the urge to pee. And there was an aide in the room. I said, I need to get up and go to the bathroom. He said, oh, no. You can't move for 6 hours. I said, but I got to pee. He said, no, you can't move. Don't worry, you have a urinary catheter. I said, yeah, but I feel like I have to pee. Oh, it's all in your head. You don't, the catheter will take care of it. Well, my nurse, Maura, then told me, it's all in your head. That's not her real name. Sounds like it, but it's not her real name. So the afternoon went on, and the urge got more and more. I mean, it was really, you know what it's like if you're driving on the highway, there's no exit, and you start looking at the Coke can and you start, right? And so there was a clock directly in front of my bed, okay, and I'm watching, tick, tick, tick. It's going on, and I'm begging them. It's all in your head, they're saying. And she holds up the bag and says, see? And sure enough, there was the yellow liquid. So, but I was really in pain. But I knew by 6:15, that would be the 6 hours. I got back to the room at 12:15, 6:15, that was it. At 6 o'clock, I couldn't stand it anymore. I said, that's it. I pushed the button on the bed. The summon the nurse button? 5 minutes go by, nobody comes. Push the button again. 5 minutes more, nobody comes. 6:15, nobody comes. 6:30, nobody has come. So I start yelling out into the hallway, excuse me, people are just walking by, nobody's coming. So I picked up the telephone, I got information, and I asked for the number of the hospital. I called the hospital. I said, may I have the nurse's station on the 5th floor? They got it, hello, 5th floor. This is Mr. Tierney in room such and such. I need a nurse. And 5 minutes later, Maura comes in, and she is clearly upset that she had been summoned as such. And she says to me, quote, we don't come running every time someone has to go to the bathroom. I was stunned. And I said, I want this out now. And she said, I'm busy, I'll be back, and she's gone. Came back 7 o'clock to do it, and she was none too gentle about the removal, let me tell you. I got up, went to the bathroom as quickly as I could under the conditions. It was slow, but I couldn't wait to get there, and I filled a container. There was something wrong with the catheter. It was taking some liquid, but not at all. And I was in pain for all that that time. And even though I came out and I said, look, she was still rude. And I said, why are you being so rude to me? And she told me how busy they were and how many patients they had and what a tough job it is. And she said, I'm sorry, Mr. Tierney. And then I did something that is very uncharacteristic of me. I never really do this. I said, actually, it's Dr. Tierney. And her attitude changed. It just changed. Oh, really? What field? Psychology, really? But why should it change? Why should it matter that I was Dr. Tierney? It didn't matter. Later on, I did some research about this, and I became somewhat more forgiving because I thought, oh, she's had a bad day, she's been in the business a long time, all of those kinds of stuff. And I learned about something that I'm researching and developing a presentation on now, the idea of compassion fatigue. And this is a real serious problem in the medical profession. When we encounter trauma over and over again, it begins to diminish. That emotion of compassion begins to diminish. And as it diminishes, we lose the essence of what we are. It is compassion that drives us. And if we lose the drive, we cease to be what we are. We forget our mission. We forget our purpose. I want to recommend to you a book by Patricia Smith. It's called To Weep for a Stranger. Patricia Smith is the founder of the Compassion Fatigue Awareness Project. You can find it on the web, and I've recently been communicating with her. We're talking about writing together and doing some kind of project together, and this is her new book, To Weep for a Stranger. It's only $15, and I can probably even find the link for you to order it if you're interested in it, so I want to bring that to your attention. So let me move on a little bit with some stories. Perhaps it was a dream, I don't know, and let's call it a dream. In my dream, I was sitting in this old Buick convertible that I had as a teenager. I was 16 years old, I got my first car, it was a Buick convertible, and I'm sitting in the driver's seat, but there was no steering wheel. So I couldn't control it, okay? I couldn't control where it would go. And standing next to the car was my dad. Now my dad's going to be 93 next week. But he didn't look like he did. He looked like he did when I was a kid, okay? And he said to me, your mother will be with you soon. Now, my mother died 13 years ago. And I said, no, Dad, Mom is dead. And he said to me in the dream, he said, no, she will be with you soon. And then he just kind of faded away. And I'm back in the car, and I looked on the dashboard of the car, and there was this little man sitting there. You know, probably if he stood up, he might be about this tall. And he was all dressed in black. And he had a big black hat on, like, you know, the Cat in the Hat, except black. And he said to me, freaking you out, aren't I? And in my dream, I said, no, you're not. And he said, oh, yes, you'll freak. You will definitely freak. And I became belligerent in my dream. And just like a boy who will go up to a bully and put his chest forward, and I began pushing myself forward into his face. And as I got closer and closer, he changed. He became a million blue lights, everyone pulsing. Still the form, still the little man, but all blue lights. And just before I would have touched him, he disappeared, and I awoke. And that memory is so strong, so powerful. I've told the story to many, many people, and one particular friend said to me with a very profound look on her face, you were on your way. And I said, on my way to where? Where? The other side? And, you know, is this a pretending of death? I had had the operation. I was out of the woods. Why should I die at this point? Now, as a scientist, as a psychologist, I would hypothesize this was a product of my unconscious mind motivated by Percocet. okay? And my fears, my fears of death and all of that kind of stuff. But as an artist, I will tell you, I don't know. I can't tell you for sure what was going on there. All I know is that it was so powerful and so meaningful. I'll never forget that little blue man and my belligerency. And I hope when it is time for me to be reunited with my mother, that I will not be so fearful and not be so belligerent. With all that I've talked about, doesn't sound like opportunities for humor, does it? It doesn't sound very funny. There were lots of funny moments that were so important to me. The nurses, the aides, constantly joking with me, constantly smiling at me. And let me tell you, a smile can be very powerful. You saw what it did in the beginning, you know? I mean, smiles are infectious. There are so many funny stories, but one in particular that I want to share with you. I had been in the cardiac unit, the intensive care unit, for 4 days. And they were telling me I was going to be moved to a place called telemetry. You familiar with that? The telemetry ward, and it's called telemetry because they hook you up to a wireless monitor, to the heart monitors, and by telemetry it gets the information there. And the cardiac ward, even though I was being cared for so beautifully, was driving me crazy because there is constant beeping going on. Every person on the ward with a cardiac was hooked up, and they were all beeping differently. Never stops. Sometimes I would listen to it, and I try to in my head notate the rhythm. You know, hear beep, 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 boop, beep, boop, beep, boop. You know, like, okay, I can write that down. You know, most of the time there was no form, anything to it. And I'm a musician, and on top of that, I'm hyperphonic. That is, I'm oversensitive to sound, and I couldn't wait to get out of there. Couldn't wait for some quiet. And finally, they said, "We have a bed in telemetry. This is 8 o'clock at night. We're going to bring you over there." And I said, "Will there be beeping?" And they said, "Well, maybe some, but it's nothing like this, nothing like this." And so they wheeled me over there and brought me into the room, and it was a dark room. It was quiet. I had a roommate, but he was asleep. Didn't even see him till the next day. And I laid in his bed and went, "Ah." And then I heard beeping. It was in the distance. Beep, beep. It was coming closer and closer and closer. And a nurse came by and said, "What's the beeping?" I said, "That's okay. New patient's being brought in. It'll turn off in a minute." And sure enough, it did. It was off in just a minute. And so, okay, blessed quiet, relative. There's always noise in the hospital. But relatively, it was quiet. And just as I closed my eyes, I heard a woman's voice. I could tell from the voice that it was an elderly person. And the nurse, who was another angel, I never saw these people, by the way, I only heard them. The nurse was getting the woman set, and she's putting her Johnny on. And she says, "Okay, not too tight, we don't want you to choke." And the woman says, "What?" She said, "We don't want you to choke." "What?" "We don't want you to choke." And the woman says, "Coke? I don't like Coke. My sister likes Coke. I like Pepsi." A little bit later, they're doing the oxygen thing. The nurse says, "Okay, we're going to apply your oxygen." "What?" "We're going to apply your oxygen." Woman says, "Gin? I don't like gin. I like whiskey. My sister likes gin. I don't like gin." Eventually, she settled down. And I'm thinking, hasn't this woman, did she suddenly become deaf? What's going on? Hadn't anybody ever trained her? Did she have hearing aids, assistive technology, anything? Next morning, I hear the woman again. And she says, "My hearing aid batteries are dead." And I'm thinking, no freaking kidding. Right? So, call my sister, tell her to bring the battery. So I'm listening to the nurse is on the phone with the sister. Okay, and the nurse is relaying what the sister is saying. The nurse says, "She can't find the batteries." Okay, "Tell her they're in my blue coat." "Where's the blue coat?" "The blue coat's in the closet." Where in the blue coat? It's not in the blue coat. In the pockets, in the inside pocket. This went on all these directions for the batteries for 5 minutes with, the woman yelling at the nurse and the nurse yelling back at the woman and the sister on the phone. And finally they located the batteries. The sister's going to bring them in. And just as the nurse hung up the phone, the woman says, "And my glasses." At that point, as annoyed as I was, I laughed out loud. And I have enjoyed telling that story ever since. So with that bit of humor, see, there is humor in everything. And humor is such a powerful medicine. It can heal. So in your work, never be afraid to be appropriately humorous. Okay? And notice the word appropriately. And you got to be careful about that, because humor can be very dangerous. It can come back and bite you. There are many people in my life whom I love. There are many people whom I love. My sons, my father. But there are two that are, I have no words to express the depth of the love that I feel. One is Brendan James Tierney, my grandson, who will be 2 years old this Sunday. I would love to continue to talk about my grandson, but I'm going to move on and share with you the other person in my life. This is my wife, Patricia. She has been my best friend, my lover, my companion, the heart of my heart, the rock on which my life is based for more than 30 years now. We're still on our honeymoon, which means I got to get home early today. And I was thinking about how hard this was for her. I was in the operating theater for 4.5 hours, and she was in the waiting room. And how painful that was. And when I awoke from my anesthesia, I opened my eyes, and the first thing I saw was Patricia. And I saw on her face such a depth of love. It just touched me. And I'm still under the anesthesia to a certain extent, and I said to her, and she told me this later, 3 words: "I love you." I love you. And I do. And I'm so grateful that she is in my life. She has made the human piece so wonderful. So we're coming to an end here. What have I learned from all of this? And when I think about it, prior to this, I had arrived, folks. All my life I've been working for something. I achieved it. I had and have a great job. I have a great marriage. I have a great family. I have an amazing grandson. I live in a marvelous place in the woods on the top of a mountain. I had it all. And suddenly it was almost gone. It was almost gone. And what do I bring out of that when I face things like that? 4 words: just keep on moving. Because whatever life brings you, you've got to move through it, because the alternative is unacceptable. Okay, you've got to keep on moving. And so I have, reading my own words, moving on through whatever comes, and never losing sight of the beauty and the privilege of life. Joseph Campbell has been my spiritual mentor for 30 years. Never met him, I'm sorry to say, but I've read everything he's written. Probably best known for A Hero with 1,000 Faces. And I'm so moved by his philosophy that as a composer, I composed an opera based on, and better yet to say, inspired by Joseph Campbell's philosophies. And in one of his writings, he wrote this. He wrote, "Participate joyfully in the sorrows of the world, because you can't cure the world of its sorrows." My opera is called Dream Singer. And there's a song in the opera which is called participate joyfully. And I want to just explain a little bit about the idea of the song. In the 6th or 7th century, there was a tradition in Persia that if you wanted to win points with God, what you could do is you could do an act of kindness, an act of piety. And one of the most popular ones would be to go to the butcher shop and buy a lamb before it was killed and set it free. So I'm playing on that in this song that I wrote called Participate Joyfully.
Participate joyfully in the sorrows of the world, for you cannot cure the world of the sorrow that it holds. Say yes to the whole of life, all the joy and all the strife. Find a place where there is joy, for the sorrow you can destroy. Let it burn out the pain within sorrow's domain, and say to life, I now choose to live in joy.
A little monk went to the sea in an act of piety, brought 500 minnows from the bait man's shop, intending to set them free. At the seashore he bent to a knee and returned all the fish to the sea. The fisher-birds came and, true to their name, gobbled up all his spent piety. The little monk cried in agony, "Oh my Lord, how can this be? That these innocent fish are the dinner dish for these monsters who prey by the sea." As he cried on that sandy shore, I understand life no more. He heard from the sky where the fisher birds fly this song of the great counselor.
Participate joyfully in the sorrows of the world, for you cannot cure the world of the sorrow that it holds. Say yes to the whole of life, all the joy and all the strife. Find a place where there is joy,
I will end with this. You may recall that I began this with Namaste. That is a Indian Sanskrit word that is used to convey a number of things. It's translated in different ways, but what I said was the heart in me greets the heart in you. The spirit in me greets the spirit in you. The divine in me honors the divine in you. But for those of you who are yoga practitioners, as I am, you will know that there is a little bit more to it. And this is what I will like to share with you. I honor the place in you in which the entire universe dwells. I honor the place in you which is love, of truth, of light, and of peace. When you are in that place in you, and I am in that place in me, we are one. Namaste. Thank you. Wow. Wow. Thank you.